Welcome back. Hello and welcome back to the It's Time podcast. I'm Ryan. That is Cailey. And today, Cailey is leading the episode.
Oh, well, when you put it like that, it gets a little stressful.
Usually I'm yapping so much. You can't get me to shut up.
I just follow the leader, honestly, and it's the greatest thing ever. It's like I'm passenger princess on the podcast.
Ooh. I love being passenger princess.
Oh, the best. I'm really excited about the rest of our day today because I feel like I've been going for the last like 4 days. And even though like we're still kind of going for the rest of the day, I was like,
it's fun stuff.
I don't have to drive, and then we're gonna like sit in a dark theater.
It is like this morning I was like, God, I have so much to do. It's Sunday, so I'm like, okay, I have to get like shit done now because we have like the rest of the day full of activities. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like the stressful, oh my God, we have a whole day full of activities. It was like, we have a whole day full of activities.
A whole day of activities? Us? Wow.
So yeah, we are doing the pod, and then we're gonna go see Dune 2. Which Timmy, Zendaya, Florence,
Flo.
Like, cast is
what
stacked.
A cast. Christopher Walken. Foo Fighters.
And I'm so excited because I'm gonna get popcorn, jalapenos, candy, maybe an icy. I don't know.
Oh, an icy.
I know. I was kind of like feeling like an icy. So we have 3 hours in the theater, which literally I'm so excited for.
I hope no one's there. I know that's not going to be true, but I hope no one's there.
I'm curious to see if they have the Dune buckets because I keep seeing.
I know. I thought they weren't going to do them, and then I've seen a few TikToks.
Yeah. Well, I think it maybe is like maybe it's a certain theater that has like a partnership or something.
I feel like you got to like pre-order them or something.
I don't think Regal will have them, but we'll see. They're probably like fucking $30 more, maybe more.
Yeah.
Than $30. I don't know.
Well, the Madam Web one was on sale and it was $15. They were like, please buy these.
Poor Madam Web.
Damn.
And then after that, we're going to a comedy show. I keep forgetting how do you say his last name?
Gaffigan.
Jim Gaffigan. Woo!
Woo! But for now, we have a drastic shift in energy because today we're talking about racism.
Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters. Oh, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
Thank you. So I just went to this training for the last 2 days, like literally from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Go. You had an hour-long lunch and everything else was just anti-racism. But it's actually really cool. My district is one of very few districts that like requires this training. So these last couple days was like the last round of people in my building that have never been to it before. So it's really nice that like everyone is forced to go. What's unfortunate though, yeah, literally. What's unfortunate though is as I was getting ready for it, like people just had like different things to say. I would say most people were like, it's great, but it's a lot. And then there was that handful of people that were like, it's a waste of time. I don't know why the district makes us do it. You are why.
Yeah.
The district makes us do it. But yeah, it was really great. There were some like awesome speakers, and I just had to share this story about this woman because holy shit, she needed to be there, and holy shit, she's the kind of person that gets nothing out of it.
A teacher at your school or just in the district?
God, but she really reminds me of a teacher at my school. So I like struggled with that. When I walked in on the first day, she and I like happened to be walking in at the exact same time. And I am not a morning person, let me tell you. Like, if it is before 8 a.m., like, don't talk to me. Which is funny because there are children in my classroom at 7:30.
I was like, don't you go to school at 7?
Yeah, I have to be in my classroom at 7. Everyone else is like walking down the hallways talking, and I'm in my room with the lights off. Only my little lamp's on. I give myself a little
Does everyone, all the other teachers know? They like,
just know.
Don't bother her right now.
Yeah.
It's not time.
It's not time yet. So we're walking in at the same time, and I'm like being professional and kind, and I'm like, oh, good morning. Which is a lot for me that early in the morning. And she kind of just like grunts back at me. And then I held the door open for her and she didn't say thank you or anything. And I'm already like, I think I know what kind of old white lady you are.
Yeah.
And which feels like a drastic statement based off just that small interaction.
I don't think it is.
But let me tell you, I was right. So I'm walking in thinking that I get to sit with all the people from my building. I'm like, okay, like that'll be nice and comfortable, you know? No, they don't let you sit with anyone you know, which in hindsight totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But so I walk in and I like find out I'm at this random table and my social anxiety spikes. And I sit down and guess who sits down right next to me 10 seconds later?
Wow.
This old white lady.
What lady?
And she continued to make the next 48 hours literally all about her.
Did you sit with them both days?
Yeah. Yeah, you were at the same table the whole time. And everyone else at my table was amazing. We had this awesome like facilitator. And I could tell even she was like taking some deep breaths. Like, man, I'm going to have some patience with this woman. Like, sometimes we would just lock eyes. I think she knew I, in particular, was having a hard time.
Well, you also don't hide how you feel. How are you doing with that?
No, I really don't. Like, my
if
face
you don't
shows
know, she's
everything.
has a very expressive face. So were you, like, in the moment thinking about that, or were you not?
Oh, I was thinking about it. Because I think normally I wouldn't, but I was in a professional setting.
You were like,
so I, like,
hold it in, hold it in, hold it in.
Literally. And I think because of that, because I was trying not to make faces and stuff, I just avoided eye contact with her a lot, which is probably why I was locking eyes with the other woman a lot and be like, oh, hello.
Hello, mister.
So we're doing all of these like amazing activities, talking about like, you know, what is racism. And like they're showing us these examples of like, you know, how we kind of innately have trained people based off of these messages we're giving. This was really interesting to me. I like purposely didn't bring it up to you yet. One of the speakers was talking about the word black and dark and how they're always associated with horrible things. Like blackmail, black magic, blackballed, black sheep, even like Star Wars,
anything
the dark side.
Yeah.
And he was like,
dark
think about
versus the light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about what that's doing to our kids as they're growing up.
Totally.
Like we're giving this kind of subconscious message that's not, you know, directly related to race in that moment, but we are training children to think, oh, well, light is good and dark is bad.
Dark is bad. Language is so important.
Yeah. And he gave the example of like, I feel like that was one moment in particular where I think some people in the room had a hard time kind of digesting that of like, oh, like maybe we're pushing it too far, you know, like
some people have
like
such a closed mind.
I know.
Because
and how are you not listening to a black man telling you this? Like
real.
That's how he feels.
Yeah. How can you say when it's not your experience?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. You think it's a stretch. You're the light side.
You're not affected. Like, have some fucking compassion.
Seriously. Which is kind of the theme with this woman I'm sitting next to. Where was I going with that story, though? Oh, and he even tied it into, like, we've learned this lesson with gender. Like, it used to be fireman, police, man.
Right.
Mankind. And, like, we're working towards shifting that. Police officer, firefighter, humankind.
Yeah.
Like, the shift is possible. We just need to be, like, more conscious of it. But this woman, it's just, like, everything we talk about, she makes it about herself. And we learned about all these different kind of, like, defense mechanisms. And she would use like innocent by association, being like, well, I can't be racist because my daughter is I can't be racist
same
because
shit as I have a black friend.
Literally.
I'm not racist. It's
Yeah.
like you are so racist.
Yeah.
And ignorant.
She would say things like that example of like the word black being associated with bad. She was like, well, I don't even understand. Like, they're not black, they're brown anyway. So maybe we should change what we call them instead of changing these words and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how, like, this is the point, and that is you over there, that teeny tiny little dot. Like, I just don't understand how people can be this way.
Yeah.
It's just like completely mind-blowing to me. And there were times where we had to like role play and basically practice like the whole point of the training was to learn how to become an interrupter. Like, how are you going to interrupt microaggressions and racism when you see them? Like, oh, what I'm hearing you say is that what you meant? Or, you know, I'm a little taken back by what you just said. Like, I know you to be a kind person, and that doesn't align with my, you know, understanding of you or whatever.
Right.
So they give us these scenarios, and she wants to practice being the instigator the whole time. We're in a group of 3, and someone has to be the instigator, the one doing the microaggression. Someone has to be the interrupter, and someone has to be the ally to back up the interrupter. She wants to be the instigator the whole time.
She's like, if there's one thing I know how to do,
it's this.
It's this.
And she literally admitted it. Both the scenarios we got, she read them and she's like, oh, I've said this 1,000,000 times. Bitch, that's why you're here.
Is she proud of that?
That's the thing. She would say it like she was. It just... It was overall a really powerful 2 days. I mean, there was 100+ people in this training. And I would say from my, you know, understanding and impression, I would say probably 98% of the people there like felt like it was really powerful and they were impacted by it and they bought into it. And sure, some people have way more work to do than others.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. I'm not saying I'm perfect. And I know, especially like before the year 2020.
Yeah.
Like I had said some really messed up things without knowing I was saying messed up things, you know? Yeah. But it's all about being
open-minded and taking
change.
Accountability.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And listening to their point of view and understanding like me being uncomfortable is not the point. These people live in discomfort.
Right.
You know, people of color face that literally every day. So if I have to push myself to be uncomfortable to change this kind of language I'm using or anything like that is exactly what I should be doing with my white privilege, you know? But something that we did that was super interesting is they gave us timelines of Oregon history. And I grew up
has a fucked history.
Truly. Yeah. And I grew up in Oregon. Like I was educated in Oregon history, but it's amazing like how much they just leave out. Like the example that really stands out to me is Oregon's birthday is Valentine's Day. And I don't know if you remember learning this growing up, but when you're learning about that time and like Oregon's inception, I was taught that Oregon was the only state that didn't allow slavery. Yeah. And it was like this, yay, hurrah for us, we're so woke thing. The reason Oregon didn't allow slavery is because they were so anti-Black people, they didn't even want slaves there. They were like, we don't even care if we get to own you and you have to do everything we tell you. This is supposed to be like, I think the word used was literally white utopia. We despise people of color so much that we won't even allow you to be a slave here. And then as people of color started to be allowed into our state, there was laws that they had to be lashed at least twice a year. And then the section my table group had was the 90s.
She brought the receipts.
She brought the receipts. We had the 90s to 2013. And I was really young for a lot of that time period. But I'm like amazed at some of the shit that was still going down in that time period. Like I know the civil rights movement isn't that far away. I know that there's still like some really racist stuff going on now in 2024. Yeah. But like the blatantly racist stuff that happened in this time period. 1994, Measure 11 established mandatory minimum sentencing and charging of youth as adults for several crimes. Oregon incarcerated young people, particularly youth of color, at a higher rate than almost any other state. Black youth were 26 times more likely to be indicted for a Measure 11 offense than their white counterparts. And Oregon does a lot of stuff that like comes across like woke and leftist, but then they don't do anything to actually enact it. In 1991, they passed the Minority Teacher Bill, and their goal was by the year 2001 to have an equal amount of teachers and administrators of color compared to students of color. It's 2024, and we still haven't met that goal. In fact, they put other laws in place that actually stopped people of color from being able.
That's insane because Oregon's white as fuck anyway.
We have a horrible
Did
history.
They bring up the KKK hub? We were the West Coast.
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say like they better have brought that shit up. They did not teach us that in school.
No, they did not. Oh, 2002.
The year is 2002.
It's the year. I literally wrote Jesus Christ 2002 ?
Yeah, they try to tell you that. Well, that's another reason why they make civil rights movements and videos and photos black and white to make you think that it's older than it is.
That it's more removed than it is.
Yeah, it's not that long ago.
Yeah.
It's all fake.
It's insane. So in 2002 is when Oregonians finally voted to remove all racist language from its constitution. We still had a clause that said, no free Negro or mulatto not residing in this state at the time of the adoption of this constitution shall come, reside, or be within this state or hold any real estate. In 2002, it was still in the Oregon Constitution that people of color could not hold real estate. You're not even supposed to be here, live here, let alone own a house. And there was someone in the room that said that their house deed still has that language in it, and they have to pay to have it removed. Is this not just like absolutely, I mean, it's not mind-blowing, it's not surprising, but it's just...
Yeah, I know what you mean, though.
It still somehow feels shocking how blatantly racist we've been.
Yeah, it's like not shocking because we know how fucked up everything is, so anytime you hear anything, it's like, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I just know that in school growing up, in history, or anytime we would learn about the Civil War or the South, it was always made to seem like the South was this completely separate entity from Oregon and also the North. That anyone who wasn't in the South didn't have slavery and didn't have racism, especially Oregon. Yeah. We were really, really taught that. Like, I thought in school, like, wow, it's crazy that there's racism like that in the South. Yeah. Like, it was so removed.
It really did feel that way. Like, oh, thank goodness we're the good guys.
Yeah. Literally. And it really tried to push that the North and, like, Abraham Lincoln were so anti-slavery. No, they were anti-slavery because they were anti-black. And they didn't want black people in the country. Abraham Lincoln met with 3 like high-level black Americans to organize when he was trying to make slavery illegal and ban it. He wanted them to sign something that would then, if this goes through, all black people in this country have to go back to Africa. He literally did that. He was not anti-slave.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Like, fuck Abraham Lincoln. Like, we can't keep telling this narrative that there were good politicians or good people in our history. There really weren't. There were. They just weren't getting the recognition. Yeah. Like,
they're not the people we advertise.
Yeah. Like, people still go see Abraham Lincoln memorial, and it's like, no,
Abraham Lincoln really has like he's got some messed up history, and we paint him as like the woke president that wanted
black
slavery.
People out of the country, the people that built the country for all the white people. Like, no, this is more their country than it is the white people. Like,
that's the most frustrating.
It's infuriating, and we feel infuriated, and imagine how black people feel in this country. Like, we can't even comprehend a sliver of what it feels like to be a black person in America or in the world.
I consider myself a relatively like educated person on this topic, like in particular since 2020. Like, I've really tried as best as I can to do my part and to still like sit down in a room and find out all of this stuff about my own state.
Right.
That I never knew.
Right.
And there were so many situations where, I mean, she's like a lot of the older generation of, you know, they're showing these like blatantly racist advertisements of like Dove soap. And it's like, before you take a bath, you're African American, and by the time you get out after you've used Dove soap, you're white. Like,
what the fuck?
Crazy stuff like that. And I can see her nodding along to the concept. There's so many like older people that are like, yeah, racism, bad. But then it was like every time she opened her mouth, she said something racist, and there was no open-mindedness to trying to change that.
Yeah.
And she kept referring to how this was really interesting. So we like started the first day off talking about our fears and our hopes. Mm-hmm. And my fear was like people not being open-minded to the content and like being vulnerable with the people around me. And almost everyone else at the table said like being vulnerable with strangers. We get to this woman, and her fear is that she's going to get in trouble again. She's already been to this training.
Her fear is that she's going to get in trouble for being racist?
Yeah. She like openly admitted that she's gotten in trouble multiple times.
Can you report this bitch? Like, I feel like you should not be a teacher. I'm sorry. No, actually, I'm not sorry.
No, you shouldn't be sorry.
You should not be an educator if that is your stand. Like, how is that your fear? Are you fucking kidding?
Isn't it just
the fucking balls to say that out loud too and not think that that's a horrific thing to say? You're
and all of
teacher.
These other people are here to like genuinely learn and be better for their kids, and you're like, I don't want to get in trouble for saying racist stuff again.
That makes me want to fucking.
So there was multiple times where she'd say things and I'd like try to guide her. Like, she's like, every year someone like reports me for saying something out of line or whatever. Like, why am I in trouble for calling you Mexican? You are Mexican. And my immediate thought is, well, are they actually Mexican, or are they just Latinx and you're assuming that they're Mexican? Also, it's just not that hard to call people what they want to be called. You know? Like, just honor that. I don't know why.
I hate, though, when older people always describe people of color by their color. Mm-hmm. Or, like, you never go, oh, yeah, that white guy.
Exactly. That was, like, one of the interrupting things we talked about. It's like, did it feel relevant to the story that you mentioned that they were black or Mexican?
He was black and... what? Okay. What the
And your
fuck?
point is? Your point is you're trying to give me some subliminal message based off of that person's race.
The boomers don't get that. They like cannot comprehend. But, well, they are black. I don't see what's wrong. Yeah. It's like, well, there's nothing wrong about them being black. No. That's not what I'm saying. It's like so outrageous that you're telling me this story about, I don't know, it could be anything. A joke that someone said, and then you had to throw in their race.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, my grandma does that all the time.
That's so telling, especially in Oregon, of how many, how we're majority white in the state. Like, because so many older people, there's a reason why they don't identify white people as white, is because they're used to white people. Mm-hmm. And then, every once in a while there's a black person around in my circle, or every once in a while there's a Hispanic person, whatever it is. It's like, it's so telling when people are racist and ignorant. By just like, it could be the most simple sentence or telling of a story, and you're like, I know a lot about you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Truly wow. So I tried to say to her with that specific example. She's like, I always get in trouble for calling someone something, or like, I was like, well, she teaches a high school course, and I was like, well, something that's really cool about the kids that are in high school right now is they're like super educated and passionate about this stuff. And I think if you genuinely just made the attempt to be like, whoa, like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that me saying that was offensive. What would you like me to say instead?
Yeah.
Or how can I fix it? Like, if you just expressed interest in that way, they'd probably be happy to say that.
Yeah.
You know, to help you solve the problem. And not that it's people of color's job to educate you or whatever, but if someone's going to call you out for one specific thing you're saying,
fuck off, figure it out yourself.
Literally.
Say whatever you want to say. That's another thing. It's allies and white allies' responsibility, really, to like help and assist other ignorant white people. It's not people of color's job.
That was something that really blew her mind too, as we talked about kind of like detours on the way to being anti-racist, and some of them are like, I'm innocent by association. Some of them are things like, you know, asking people of color to educate you. And she was like, I just really don't understand that. Like, so if I'm saying something that offends you, shouldn't I? And I had to be like, well, every time you ask a person of color to educate you, you're putting a load on them, you're assigning a job to them, and you're asking them to relive their trauma. She's like, well, so I'm supposed to ask white people? That doesn't seem like the greatest idea. And I'm like, well, you got to pick the right white people.
Also, like, there's so many ways to learn and educate yourself. So, like, just do the fucking work. Like, try. Make an effort.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, was it in Sex Lives of College Girls where they had, like, a plot arc about that? About, like, a white TA in one of the classrooms. Like, he mixed up, I'm pretty sure it was Sex Lives of College Girls. He mixed up a test with 2 black girls because he thought that he couldn't tell them apart. Classic. And one of the girls, like, confronted him about it, and he, like, got emotional and almost started crying and, like, put it onto her.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
It
is Sex Life of College
and
Girls.
like, he's, like, crying and upset and it's like
the white fragility,
and, like, okay, whoa, let's take a step back. You are right for feeling guilty. You should you should take accountability, but by crying and putting that onto the person who's actually the victim in the situation, and, like, that exact situation can be
applied to so many different things. Yeah.
Like, stop. Like, whoa.
That was something one of the speakers told us too, is like, yeah, you probably will feel guilty, but what's the point of feeling guilty? What's the point of having empathy if you're not doing something about that feeling of empathy?
Yeah.
You know, like, sitting there crying is not fixing the problem.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'll do better.
Yeah, your white guilt is not on the same level.
No.
As well, so.
God, I was going to say something else. What was it?
Also, using your oppression that you've experienced on a different level to say that you're not racist against other oppressed groups is something that really bothers me. And I'm Iranian, and I speak from the standpoint, I've been around a lot of Iranian people, and there's a lot of really racist Iranian people that I know, not know, but, like, I've been around and heard things that they've said. And it's like, but then if you were to confront about, okay, well, black people in America, whatever you're going to say, well, I mean, I'm an immigrant and I've experienced, okay, it's not about you.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, no one's saying, it's not a competition for who's the most oppressed. Like, but you arguably, black people are the most oppressed people in this country. Not saying that Mexican people aren't also oppressed in this country. I'm not saying that women aren't oppressed in this country. They are. I'm not saying that Middle Eastern people aren't oppressed. They are. It's not a competition. But when someone is saying, this is my experience in America, and you turn around and go, well, actually, I've also experienced oppression in America, like, you're completely, like, it's such a weird, but I've heard so many people do that from different cultures too.
A lot of people
and it's
do
like,
that.
What the fuck are you doing? Are you trying?
It's that, like,
that you're...
It's that thing that white people in particular do it a lot too, of like, well, there's this one way that I'm oppressed, so let me bring it up.
Yeah, it's like, what?
It's a different conversation, and I don't know why you. I know why you choose to bring it in here, because you're trying to.
Also, because you've experienced, like, microaggressions and oppression in some way, doesn't mean that you are immune to being racist. Like, nah, you still got to do the work. Like, it's just so.
Yeah. Something someone at the training said that I thought was really powerful. This person, like, follows most of the kind of dominant culture identity markers in America. That was something we talked about too. You know, like, the majority is white cis male, or white cis male, Christian, you know, middle class, all of those kinds of things.
Fucking cishet.
And this person identified with most of that, but they're queer. And something she said that I, like, really resonated with me and I thought was so powerful was, like, I had to learn that my whiteness, my white privilege comes before my queerness and that oppression. And she said it in such a matter-of-fact way. Like, yeah, like I'm oppressed for being queer. My rights are at risk all the time. But my white privilege,
right,
like, I don't want to override is not the word, but like takes the priority.
It comes first, you know? Because you have to think of it too, like, especially if you're like, you also have to take accountability. Like, I'm
he was sniffing your foot so hard.
Wow. Like, I'm a pansexual woman, but I also understand that I've heard this conversation a lot with queer women of like, there are privileges that come with being pansexual and bisexual that lesbian women don't have, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of like to the point of that, of like, if I'm walking down the street as a bisexual and I'm maybe a little more straight passing, that privilege does come first before my queer oppression versus a Black person walking down the street that is being instantly oppressed and judged just based on that appearance, or queer people who are being like PDA on the street, like that. Like, you have to break down all of this and understand it, but it also is like, just have a conversation about it. It's like, makes sense.
Literally read the room.
Like, it's
not that hard.
Apparent. Like, I totally understand that I have privilege with being more straight passing, or if I'm in a relationship with a man at the moment, I do have more privilege in my queerness.
Yeah.
I have light skin. I have experienced microaggressions from and other things from my Iranian ethnicity, but I am light skinned and there is privilege in that. Like, it's so, I don't understand how people don't understand that or are so, but it's interesting too, because the people that want to shout that they're oppressed from the rooftops are white, straight, cis, het. So,
yeah.
It's like, what?
It's like, that's such a fucking reach, dude. It's like me saying that, like, oh, yeah, like, Black people get killed by the police, but I'm a woman. I make less money.
It's almost just, like, so stupid it's funny. Like,
people look over me in promotions. Like,
there's a wage gap. Yeah, it sucks.
Okay, yeah, women can be oppressed.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, but. Yeah.
No, not but. And women can be oppressed. There
you go.
That's not the priority in this space right now.
And to that point, also understanding that women as a whole, there are different oppression groups within it. Black women and Hispanic, Latina women,
yes,
are way more oppressed than white women.
Yes.
It's like, the wage gap for white women isn't the same as wage gap for POC women. It's different. It's worse. Like, so moral of the story is fucking educate yourself. Like, do the fucking work.
Yeah.
Like, have the conversations. Like, I feel like that's why that's great that you are doing things like that. I don't know how long that's been a thing, or if more districts
for over 10 years.
Oh,
which is really cool.
Because the conversations need to be had, and they need to be led by people of color,
yes,
that are experiencing it. So like, I'm like, oh god,
and strong.
Thank God it's actually fucking who led it, a Black man.
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
and
because I swear if I hear
Latinx woman,
a fucking
and then
like
one white woman,
racism in the workplace held by a white person, like literally I'd
literally.
So there's some maybe good things.
Yeah. No, I think there was a lot of great things. It was just that one person in particular I felt like represents a large population. But something that really resonated with me, and I think is kind of like a good way to wrap up.
Perf.
And I think, I don't know how old you are, but the older generation, like I feel like in particular, like kind of our parents' generation wants to understand and like wants to be an ally, but can get so fixated on like either change or like getting upset when someone calls them out on like doing something wrong.
It's the victim complex, man.
And we watched this TED Talk that I thought was really interesting. And basically this man made the analogy of like anti-racism work being like oral hygiene, right? Like, you don't just brush your teeth once and now you're good. Right?
Okay.
Like, there are people that floss every day. There are people that floss once a week. And, you know, if I see that you have something in your teeth, I'm going to tell you out of an act of kindness.
Wow.
Because I don't want you to sit there walking around with spinach in your teeth or whatever, right? Like if you say
that's embarrassing, but
if you say something racist, if you commit a microaggression, I'm going to say like, hey, you got a little something in your teeth here.
Yeah, you might want to fix that.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you're a horrible person. It doesn't mean you don't have good oral hygiene.
It could mean that though.
It could.
Depends.
It could. But it doesn't have to, because I think for some people, like I know I get caught up in this feeling sometimes, especially being like a teacher and having these conversations with kids, is like that kind of cancel culture looms in the back of your head. Like if I say the wrong thing, like I could be fired, I could be this, I could be that. And I think the whole point is like the intention. Like I'm trying to say the right thing, and if I don't, then call me out on it real quick. And I'm going to take accountability and I'm going to get that out of my teeth and I'm going to be better the next time. Right. Like,
and maybe you're going to prioritize that hygiene now.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that analogy. That's really cool. And I think especially the older generation needs things like that to comprehend. So I'm sure that hopefully that helped a few people kind of go, oh, okay.
Like I want to tell my mom that. My mom is like the most well-intentioned person, but sometimes she'll ask me and my brother these just like kind of ignorant questions.
Let's think about that.
And then gets defensive when we're like, well, okay, we've explained this a few times. It's like, okay, well,
yeah,
you got to start flossing more regularly, I guess.
Yeah. Train that mind. Do the work. Honestly, there's no excuse anymore. And I mean, God, just like listen, go on TikTok and listen to people of color share their stories and talk and follow them and spread their stories, like,
and know that just because those people of color choose to share that information and try to educate people doesn't mean that you get to reach out to the people of color in your life and assume that that's a role they're comfortable with.
Amazing. Point, period, point, check, repeat, done.
The resources are literally at your fingertips.
Yeah.
There's no excuse.
No excuse. It's hard too because we're coming from a privileged standpoint too. So it's just like we're having these conversations, but with such an open mind and like the understanding, like you're saying, of like, call us out.
Yeah, please do.
For real. Like,
and when you get called out, you don't get to be fragile.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing your story.
Yeah. Yeah. Glad I could like spread it because there were so many things that I
spread it wide open. Spread her wide.
So many like great takeaways from that training, and I feel super grateful that I work in a place that like prioritizes spreading that information.
Yeah. Oh,
so does Louie.
You want to say something?
Tell the people.
Meow. Oh. Do you want to close out today?
No. She's got it.
Thank you so much for listening to or watching the It's Time podcast. I'm Raya. That is Cailey. New episodes every Wednesday. Don't forget to go check out Portland Girls, Gays, and Theys on Instagram if you want to join the group and the Discord. We have some fun stuff coming up, some meetups, monthly events, really fun events. We're getting witchy. We're getting crazy. It's great. So definitely want to join. And yeah, stay tuned.
Foo Fighters.
Let's go watch Dune.